My name's Dr. Joanna Rose. I was conceived from anonymous sperm donation in Harley Street in the early 1970s. We've got a polarised debate. Well, on the one hand, you've got people who are infertile and a sense that we have to be empathetic and responsive to that pain. And anybody who doesn't support donor conception or even tries to modify the practice is considered not adequately informed or empathetic about the pain of infertility. And the truth is that that's simply not true. The problem is that in order to respond to the pain of infertility, invariably, only that pain and that infertility and those people's interests are looked at. And everything else, there's no empathy shown for the child. There's no empathy shown for the pain and loss of the child not knowing half their genetic family or even more. So there's this lopsided pressure to have empathy for people who are experiencing either infertility. I don't even think you could say infertility for a lot of people, because there's people who want to have a child also who are either single or they're in inherently non-reproductive relationships, which isn't actually infertility, medically speaking. And yeah, there's this lopsided positioning of who you're supposed to have empathy for and why. In best practice in adoption, children are removed from their genetic families for child protection. In reproductive technology, children are intentionally deprived of relationships with their family for child production from their genetic family. And that's a fundamental difference. An adoptee, for one reason or another, loses their genetic family or the ability to be raised by their genetic family for a range of reasons, and they need to be protected and nurtured by another family. That adoptive family then comes along to take that job on. But in reproductive technology, it's not about child protection, it's about child production. A child is produced severed from a genetic parent or one or more genetic parents and the family associated with that in order to produce a child. Yeah, lots of people think that this is like adoption, or even half as bad as adoption, or even less than that, because often you're raised by your genetic mother. But there are ways that it's similar and there's ways that it's different. The ways that it's similar is that you've got a group of people who don't have knowledge of their genetic family in one way or another, and that the process of trying to find out who your genetic family is, the impacts on people's identity throughout their lifespan, and also the impact of trying to meet up with those people and reconnect. There's a lot to be learnt from adoption, there's a lot to be shared, and there's a lot of adoptees who are incredibly supportive of us. But the ways that it are different is that now, in good adoption practice as opposed to the bad adoption practice, children aren't removed from their genetic parents as a service for infertile people. So the people that raise, the adoptive parents that raise that child, are not responsible for or have not intentionally created the loss for that child of being known and cared for within their genetic families. So the fundamental difference is that the families in reproductive technology that use donor conception it's a commissioned absence. And it's very hypocritical, because on the one hand, it is about trying to maximise somebody's genetic continuity. For my mum, she got to be a genetic mother, and she got to carry a child and breastfeed a child and do all the stuff that she wanted to do that made her fulfilled as a woman and as a mother. But the flip side of that was that my relationship with my genetic father was intentionally wiped off the board. And that's a difficult dynamic.